All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're uh we're going deep today on something pretty fascinating.
Okay.
President Biden's perspective as he, finishes up his time in office.
Mm,
We're looking at excerpts from a CBS News piece
right.
called "Biden Leaves Office Believing History Will Redeem Him."
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder, how does Biden see his own legacy?
It really does. He comes across as really optimistic
Yeah.
about how history will judge his presidency.
Yeah.
And there's this quote from the CBS article that really stood out to me. He said, "I've never been more optimistic about America's future," which
Wow.
that's quite a statement from a president who's, on his way out.
Yeah, that's a bold statement for sure.
It is.
The article mentions a bunch of things that he points to be optimistic about.
Right.
Things like his infrastructure initiatives.
Yeah,
And you've been following that really closely.
absolutely.
What do you think will stand out the most to historians about those bills?
I think the thing that will really resonate is the sheer size of the investment.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars
That,
going into roads, bridges, broadband, internet,
wow.
clean energy project.
We haven't really seen that level of investment in a long time.
No, not in decades, you could even argue.
Really?
That it rivals Eisenhower's interstate highway system in terms of ambition.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the long-term impact, who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Right,
But
exactly.
the goal was to modernize the country's infrastructure
Exactly, address those critical needs.
for the 21st century.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just infrastructure, right? The article also mentions the economic recovery post-pandemic
Uh-huh.
and also the way he handled the Ukraine crisis.
Absolutely. Both of those will factor into how he's remembered.
Right.
The economy always plays a big role.
Yeah.
And while it wasn't perfect, we did see big improvements in job growth
Sure.
and GDP under his watch.
Yeah.
And with Ukraine rallying all that international support and providing aid. Yeah.
It definitely made him look like a strong leader on the world stage.
Yeah, definitely. But it's important to acknowledge that
Yeah.
it wasn't all, a walk in the park.
Of course.
The article also mentions those tougher parts of his presidency,
Yeah.
like the withdrawal from Afghanistan
Yeah.
and the ongoing political division in the country.
I think that's a tough one.
It's like a balancing act, right?
Right.
There are these achievements,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's Afghanistan.
Right.
So as a historian, how would you judge the impact of his presidency as a whole?
I think historians will look at a few things.
Okay.
The context of the decisions he made,
Mm-hmm.
what he wanted to happen versus what actually happened,
Yeah.
and the long-term ripple effects.
Okay.
So with Afghanistan, they'd analyze what led to the withdrawal,
Right.
how it was actually carried out,
Yeah.
and the effect it had on America's place in the world.
Okay.
And also, obviously, what happened in Afghanistan itself.
Yeah.
It's not about pointing fingers,
It's about understanding the whole story.
the whole picture.
Right. And where it fits in the bigger picture of his time as president.
Interesting. And speaking of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the article mentions how Biden compares his first 2 years in office
Yes.
to presidents like Franklin D. Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, both of whom faced massive challenges early on.
Right. So what do you think about that comparison?
Well, it's a bold comparison for sure.
It is.
I mean, Roosevelt had the Great Depression.
Right.
Lincoln had the Civil War.
Yeah.
Both of those were huge crises.
Defining moments.
Exactly, that really tested their leadership.
Absolutely.
I think what Biden is trying to say is that
Yeah.
he also faced really tough times, and that despite the setbacks,
Yeah.
he thinks history will show that he led the country through some really difficult times.
Oh,
Whether that's true, well, we'll see.
right. Exactly. It's really up to historians to decide.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot for them to think about.
It is.
We've gone over a lot of ground today.
We have.
What surprised you the most in this deep dive into Biden's perspective?
Honestly, it's his optimism.
Yeah.
Even with all the challenges and controversies,
Yeah.
he really believes history will prove him right.
Wow.
It makes you wonder what he'll do after his presidency
That's a good question.
and what issues he'll focus on.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It really leaves us all with something to think about.
Right.
How will future generations view the long-term impact of Biden's policies, both here in America and around the world?
Yeah.
Will his vision for America's future still be relevant decades from now?
Who knows?
Only time will tell.
I guess we'll find out.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See ya!